How much protein do we actually need to gain muscle? Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. If you guys would though, please give me a like down below, greatly appreciate it. If you are not subscribed or following me, please do so. And if you guys would leave me a comment down below, even just to say hello or to give your thoughts, I would absolutely appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's get over to the topic. All right, I want to state this is a bit of nuance. There's a difference between how much protein seems to max out muscle growth and how much protein gives us other metabolic benefits, recovery benefits, things like that, because these are two very different questions. So to answer up front, we've got enormous amounts of data on this. Muscle growth tends to pretty much cap out in every single study. If it's mixed source of protein, meaning high quality animal proteins in there, high bioavailability, around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Okay, and that's a little lower. That's definitely lower than what a lot of people were historically taught. But there's some other nuance to that. So I want to be clear. I am not saying it's wrong to eat more. I'm not saying there aren't even some benefits. But if we're going to talk purely muscle growth, so someone like me who's 100 kilograms, that's about 160 grams of protein. What I thought was interesting, this was even noted years ago. So anecdotally talking big, massive pro bodybuilders, you guys remember Nasser El-Sabate? IFBB pro, used to compete in the Olympia. He had said one time, he's like, I went down to 150 grams of protein a day at one time, and I gained just as much muscle and was still placing in the top 5 of the Mr. Olympia. He goes, there's definitely, we don't seem to need as much as we think. And that was even his own observation. But that's just anecdote of a pro bodybuilder, right? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, but this other pro bodybuilder eats 400, 500 grams. Yep, absolutely. But here's the point. Are they necessarily gaining more muscle for it? Probably not. Probably really helpful, though, when they're trying to trim body fat down. Because that's a whole different topic, isn't it? Right? When they're prepping for the show, they're struggling with appetite, thermic effect. Now, that's a different story. There's actually merit to that. It's not actually stupid, believe it or not. It's actually not dumb at all. There's a method to that. But I digress. Back over to the muscle growth. Well, what do we have in studies? And this is what throws people off because they're like, well, no, it's probably not for real bodybuilders. No, we're talking when serious competitive bodybuilders have been studied in the lab. Olympic weightlifters, we're talking who have qualified for the Olympics. Okay, so this is the caliber we're talking about when professional bodybuilders, both natural and unnatural, have been tested, and professional weightlifters who have qualified and been invited to the Olympics. So we're at this caliber. This is the upper echelons. This is the top 1% of lifters. Those studies and even meta-analysis that look at it are like, yeah, about 1.5 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. They don't gain muscle beyond that. They don't seem to gain muscle beyond that at all. Okay. There have been some studies that still show very, very robust growth as low as 100 grams if it's high quality animal protein. Now, in vegan diets, that's not been the case when that's been looked at. Like animal source protein, no, that's going to be too low. In fact, we had that one recent study done to where 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight on a vegan diet, the women all lost muscle and strength. They lost muscle and strength as experienced lifters. But that was purely plant source. So again, we're getting down towards the bottom end of that range with a lower quality protein. Yeah, it wasn't even sufficient to maintain what they had. But if we're talking about mostly animal source, high bioavailability, yeah, you can get away with that low. It's almost why I tell people if you're even worried about getting enough protein, a couple scoops of whey protein a day completely, probably for most people, will put you in a situation where you don't even need to track anymore in terms of just gaining muscle. And that's just being realistic. Now, we could make another argument. It's actually the opposite. I've seen the best researchers and scientists have said it may be the opposite of what people think. They're like, oh, those pro bodybuilders and the really serious advanced lifters need more protein. And actually, a lot of them have noted they may need less. So that's kind of the problem with some of those studies too. Okay. Actually, advanced lifters gain muscle slower. Straight up. We gain muscle slower. Way, way, way slower. In other words, we're not going to convert as much protein into new muscle tissue as someone who's newer. We might technically need a little less, in theory. Also, there's the case of people who've been training a long time. They're very efficient at utilizing protein for building muscle. Their body is pretty good at it at that point, has a lot of experience. So we could possibly make the case for the novice lifter needing more than that. But then again, you come over and say, but how much is that really? I mean, so even that 1.6, if you were to take it up a little bit to 2 grams, right? That might be what some people would recommend. And there's been a couple studies on novices that suggested that might actually be helpful. But how much is that really? I mean, if a novice weighs 70 kilos, you see where I'm going? 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. It's only 140 grams. I mean, we're still down in that 150, 160 range. You know, because again, even though they need more for body weight, it's still the net, they're smaller. The net total amount, it still ends up being in that range. What about other things? All right, that's just for gaining muscle. What about cutting? What about recomposition? Well, that's a little different. Yeah, there's definitely been data showing that if you're trying to get leaner, jacking your protein up can be helpful for a couple of reasons. Number one, thermic effect. Okay? Thermic effect, like higher, just straight metabolic benefits. Protein burns through more heat than other calorie sources do. So, example, let's say you're cutting on 2,500 calories, but you've added 100 grams of protein into that out of what you were eating. Well, your maintenance is probably going to be higher based on that, right? It may speed your cut up just a hair because, well, higher energy output, calories in, calories out. Higher protein intakes crank up calories out. Number two, protein helps with appetite. See where we're about to go here? So talking calories in, calories out, losing body fat, maintaining muscle, there could be real metabolic and cutting benefits to taking the protein up. Not for better muscle preservation. A lot of the studies show it's not actually better to go up. But what about appetite, thermic effect? So you want to eat less. You feel the need to eat a little less, you get a little less hungry, and you burn a little more calories. Now, if you're trying to get ripped, is that a bad thing? I know, I'm going to say that's a pretty positive thing. We also then have to factor in higher protein impact stuff like collagen synthesis, tendons, okay? Tendon health, tendon recovery, that could be a factor too. So again, that may actually dictate bumping protein up a little bit more in some cases, right? Or if you're recovering from an injury. Yeah. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.